Uber criticism. Uber operates as a transportation network company, which, in some regions, are legal to operate. Regulations can include requirements for driver background checks, fares, the number of drivers, and licensing. Local taxi industry groups have complained that the company's illegal taxicab operations are taking away their business. Many Uber drivers have complained that Uber treats them as independent contractors and not employees, hence affecting benefits. Increased traffic congestion. TNC vehicles increase traffic congestion in some cities as they are constantly cruising waiting for customers. A report published by Schaller Consulting in July 2018 showed that traffic congestion increased as a result of TNCs, contrary to their claims. Reduced usage of public transportation. Studies have shown that TNCs have led to a reduction in use of public transportation. Lack of wheelchair-accessible vans. In some areas, TNCs are required by law to have a certain amount of wheelchair-accessible vans, WAVs, on the road at any given time. This can be a difficult requirement for TNCs to meet because TNCs don't provide vehicles and most drivers do not own a WAV, causing a shortage. Effect on values of New York City taxi medallions. In New York City, use of TNCs has negatively affected the values of taxi medallions, transferable permits or licenses authorizing the holder to pick up passengers for hire. After soaring in value after the Great Recession due to their perceived safety, New York City taxi medallions were again trading for around $170,000 each in 2018. Annual rental rates were $30,000. A couple of credit unions that lent money secured by medallions suffered from bank failure. Drivers using their phones while driving. When a customer makes a pickup request, a driver is notified by a mobile app and is provided the customer's location. The driver has approximately 15 seconds to tap the phone to accept the request. In 2014, Deborah Hersman of the National Transportation Safety Board criticized the 15-second system, saying that it presents a significant distraction to drivers, as drivers are financially motivated to respond to fares while driving. In response, Uber stated that drivers are not required to physically look at the device to accept a fare. Criminal probe due to use of Greyball. Uber developed an internal software tool called Greyball, which uses data collected from the Uber mobile app other means, to avoid giving rides to certain individuals. The tool was used starting in 2014. By showing ghost cars driven by fake drivers to the targeted individuals in the Uber mobile app, and by giving real drivers a means to cancel rides requested by those individuals, Uber was able to avoid giving rides to known law enforcement officers in areas where its service is illegal. Investigative journalism by the New York Times and the resulting report, published on March 3, 2017, made public Uber's use of Greyball since 2014. Describing it as a way to evade city code enforcement officials in Portland, Oregon, Australia, South Korea, and China. At first, in response to the report, Uber stated that Greyball was designed to deny rides to users who violate Uber's terms of service, including those involved in sting operations. According to Uber, Greyball can hide the standard city app view for individual riders, enabling Uber to show that same rider a different version. Uber reportedly used Greyball to identify government officials through factors such as whether a user frequently opens the app near government offices, a review of social media profiles by Uber employees to identify law enforcement personnel, and the credit cards associated with the Uber account. On March 8, 2017, Uber admitted that it had used Greyball to thwart government regulators and pledged to stop using the service for that purpose. In May 2017, the United States Department of Justice opened a criminal investigation into Uber's use of Greyball to avoid local law enforcement operations. Treatment of drivers as independent contractors. The United States Department of Labor issued guidelines in July 2015 to deal with what it considers misclassification of workers. It argues that any worker who is economically dependent on the employer should be treated as an employee. By contrast, a worker must be in business for himself or herself to be an independent contractor. The guideline was non-binding, but is expected to have some influence in various court cases which may establish new common law on the issue. Underpayment of drivers equals. In January 2017, Uber agreed to pay $20 million to the U.S. government to resolve accusations by the Federal Trade Commission of having misled drivers about potential earnings. Accusation of trade secret theft by Waymo equals. According to a February 2017 lawsuit filed by Waymo, owned by an affiliate of Google, ex-Google employee Anthony Levandowski allegedly downloaded 9.7 gigabytes of Waymo's highly confidential files and trade secrets, including blueprints, design files and testing documentation before resigning to Found Auto, which was purchased by Uber. A ruling in May 2017 required Uber to return documents to Waymo. The trial began February 5, 2018. A settlement was announced February 8, 2018 with Uber giving Waymo $244 million in Uber equity in an agreement to ensure Uber does not infringe Waymo's intellectual property. Alleged shortchanging of drivers equals. In 2017 a lawsuit was filed alleging that Uber uses sophisticated software to defraud both drivers and passengers. According to the suit, under the upfront pricing model, when a passenger is quoted a price the app shows a longer more expensive route, meanwhile would-be drivers are shown a shorter cheaper route. The passenger is charged for the more expensive route, while the driver is paid the cheaper, with Uber pocketing the difference. Denial of service to passenger with service animal equals. In March 2018, a lawsuit was filed against Uber in the United States accusing the company's drivers of not serving a woman with cerebral palsy due to her service dog in violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act and the Texas Human Resources Code. Protest after Trump travel ban. In 2017, Uber was targeted by Grab Your Wallet for its alleged relation to Trump travel ban Executive Order 13,769, which has also been referred to as a de facto Muslim ban. The order had triggered a taxi strike in New York City, to which Uber responded by removing surge pricing from JFK Airport, where Muslim refugees had been detained upon entry. Uber was also targeted because CEO Travis Kalanick was on an economic advisory council with President Trump. A social media campaign known as #DeleteUber was formed in protest, resulting in approximately 200,000 users deleting the app. Uber added user account deletion to meet the resulting surge in requests, and Kalanick resigned from the council. Statements were emailed to former users who had deleted their accounts, asserting that the company would be assisting refugees, and that CEO Kalanick joining the council was not an endorsement of President Trump. In June 2017, Kalanick resigned as CEO of Uber. Dynamic pricing. Uber fares are based on a dynamic pricing model, in which fares are higher during periods of high demand for rides. The same route costs different amounts at different times as a result of factors such as the supply and demand for Uber drivers at the time the ride is requested. When rides are in high demand in a certain area and there are not enough drivers in such area, Uber fares increase to get more drivers to that area and to reduce demand for rides in that area. The rate quoted to the rider reflects such dynamic pricing. In 2012, then CEO Travis Kalanick responded to criticism of dynamic pricing by saying that it will take time for customers to get used to dynamic pricing after decades of fixed rates in taxis. Uber argued that without dynamic pricing, there would not be enough drivers to enable riders to get a ride within minutes. Uber cited an example of the aftermath of a sold-out Ariana Grande concert at Madison Square Garden in March 2015. As the concert ended, the number of people who opened the Uber app increased fourfold, but, due to the higher prices, the actual ride requests only rose slightly, enabling ride requests to be completed within the usual time frame. Uber was criticized for its extreme surcharges during emergencies such as Hurricane Sandy, the 2014 Sydney hostage crisis, and the June 2017 London Bridge attack, especially when taxis offered to transport riders for free. However, in many cases, Uber later refunded surcharges incurred by riders during these events. In 2014, Uber announced that it would not implement surge pricing during emergencies in the United States. During the 2017 Central Mexico earthquake, Uber offered free rides. Increase in traffic congestion. A report published by Schaller Consulting in July 2018 showed that traffic congestion increased as a result of Uber and Lyft, contrary to the company's claims. Alleged cancellation of ride requests to disrupt competitors. Uber issued an apology on January 24, 2014, after documents were leaked to Valleywag and TechCrunch saying that, earlier in the month, Uber employees in New York City deliberately ordered rides from Get, a competitor, only to cancel them later. The purpose of the fake orders was twofold: wasting drivers' time to obstruct legitimate customers from securing a car, and offering drivers incentives, including cash, to join Uber. Operation Slog plan to disrupt Lyft. Following Lyft's expansion into New York City in July 2014, Uber, with the assistance of Target CW, a San Diego, California-based employment agency, sent emails offering a huge commission opportunity to several contractors based on the personal hustle of the participants. Those who responded to the solicitation were offered a meeting with Uber marketing managers who attempted to create a street team to gather intelligence about Lyft's launch plans in New York City and recruit their drivers to Uber. Recruits were given 2 Uber-branded iPhones, one a backup in case the person was identified by Lyft, and a series of valid credit card numbers to create dummy Lyft accounts. Participants were also required to sign non-disclosure agreements. In August 2014, Lyft reported that 177 Uber employees had ordered and canceled approximately 5,560 Lyft rides since October 2013, and that it had found links to Uber recruiters by cross-referencing the phone numbers involved. The report identified one Lyft passenger who canceled 300 rides from May 26 to June 10, 2014, and who was identified as an Uber recruiter by 7 different Lyft drivers. Uber did not apologize, but suggested that the recruitment attempts were possibly independent parties trying to make money. Evasion of law enforcement operations. Greyball. For information on Uber use of a software tool called Greyball, see section Criminal Probe due to use of Greyball. Ripley. After a police raid in Uber's Brussels office, a January 2018 report by Bloomberg LP stated that Uber routinely used Ripley to thwart police raids in foreign countries. Developed as a type of secret panic button system, initially called Unexpected Visitor Protocol, then nicknamed Ripley, to disrupt government raids on Uber's offices by locking, shutting off, and changing passwords on staff computers upon a raid, Uber likely used this button at least 24 times, from spring 2015 until late 2016. User privacy and data breaches. Godview. On November 19, 2014, then U.S. Senator Al Franken, chairman of the United States Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on Privacy, Technology and the Law, sent a letter to Kalanick regarding user privacy. Concerns were raised about internal misuse of the company's data, in particular the ability of Uber staff to track the movements of its customers, known as Godview. In 2011, a venture capitalist disclosed that Uber staff members were using the function to track journalists and politicians as well as using the feature recreationally. Staff members viewed being tracked by Uber as a positive reflection on the subject's character. An Uber job interviewee said that he was given unrestricted access to Uber's customer tracking function as part of the interview process, and that he retained that access for several hours after the interview ended. Data breaches. On February 27, 2015, Uber admitted that it had suffered a data breach more than 9 months earlier. Names and license plate information of approximately 50,000 drivers were inadvertently disclosed. Uber discovered this leak in September 2014 but waited more than 5 months to notify the affected people. In November 2017, it was revealed that a separate data breach, which occurred in 2016, disclosed personal information on about 600,000 drivers and 57 million customers, including license information of drivers, and names, email addresses, and phone numbers. Attackers gained access to a private GitHub repository used by Uber developers, using employees' usernames and passwords that had been compromised in previous breaches, a credential stuffing method. The hackers subsequently located credentials for the company's AWS data store in the repository files, and were therefore able to obtain access to the account records of users and drivers, as well as other data contained in over 100 S3 buckets. Uber paid a $100,000 ransom to the hackers on the promise they would delete the stolen data. The company was subsequently criticized for concealing the loss of data. CEO Dara Khosrow Shahi apologized. The company, Uber BV and Uber UK, was issued with a monetary penalty notice of £385,000, downsizable to £308,000, by the UK Information Commissioner's Office. In September 2018, Uber accepted a settlement of $148 million from the Federal Trade Commission, admitting to falsely claiming that internal access to consumers' personal information was closely monitored on an ongoing basis, and also stating that Uber had failed to live up to its promise to provide reasonable security for consumer data. According to The Washington Post, this settlement is among the biggest in Uber's history and marks the first time the company has settled the matter with the top law enforcement officials from all 50 states in the district. It is the largest multi-state penalty ever levied by state authorities for a data breach. Safety concerns. It is unclear if Uber is less or more safe than regular taxi cabs, as major cities don't have much data on taxi-related incidents. Allegations of inadequate background checks and vetting of drivers. Concerns regarding Uber's background checks were raised after reports of sexual abuse of passengers by Uber drivers. In February 2016, Uber was criticized following the 2016 Kalamazoo shootings, purportedly committed by Jason Dalton, an Uber driver in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Dalton is believed to have been driving for Uber while allegedly conducting a shooting spree that left 6 people dead and 2 others wounded. This led to a 7-hour manhunt for the suspect, during which it is believed that Dalton continued to drive and accept fares. Uber was aware of the issues with Dalton's driving skills, having received multiple complaints, though critics agree that Dalton would not have raised any red flags since he did not have a criminal record. In November 2017, the Colorado Public Utilities Commission fined Uber $8.9 million after discovering that 57 drivers in the state had violations in their background checks. The fine amount equaled $2,500 per day that an unqualified driver worked. Drivers using the app while driving. When a customer makes a pickup request, a driver is notified on the Uber Driver mobile app and is provided the customer's location. The driver has approximately 15 seconds to tap the phone to accept the request. An Uber driver reported that drivers can be temporarily suspended for ignoring these requests. In 2014, Deborah Hersman of the National Transportation Safety Board criticized the 15-second system, saying that it presents a significant distraction to drivers, as drivers are financially motivated to respond to fares while driving. In response, Uber stated that drivers are not required to physically look at the device to accept a fare. Sexual harassment allegations and management shakeup, 2017. On February 20, 2017, former Uber engineer Susan Fowler stated that she was subjected to sexual harassment by a manager and subsequently threatened with termination of employment by another manager if she continued to report the incident. CTO Tuan Pham reportedly had knowledge of Susan Fowler's sexual harassment allegation at Uber and her managers threatened retaliation, and did nothing. These allegations were later shown to be false by an investigative reporting by The Information, and by a BuzzFeed publication of an email from Pham to this engineering team to clarify the matter. Kalanick was also reportedly aware of the harassment issues. Uber hired former Attorney General Eric Holder to investigate the claims. Arianna Huffington, a member of Uber's board of directors, also oversaw the investigation. On February 20, 2017, Kalanick led a meeting with employees that was described by the participants as honest and raw. On February 27, 2017, Amit Singhal, Uber's senior vice president of engineering, was forced to resign after it was revealed that he failed to disclose a sexual harassment claim against him that occurred while he was the vice president of Google Search. New York Times journalist Farhad Manjoo described the scandal as a watershed for women engineers. On June 6, 2017, Uber announced that it fired over 20 employees as a result of the investigation. On June 13, 2017, Kalanick took an indefinite leave of absence from Uber. On June 20, 2017, after multiple shareholders reportedly demanded his resignation, Kalanick resigned as CEO. Criticism of workplace culture amid the scandals. In early 2017, after the revelations by Fowler, Leslie Miley, a veteran software engineer, claimed that Uber had an asshole culture and said if you did well in that environment upholding those values, I probably don't want to work with you. A job interviewee described Uber's organizational culture as one in which employees are lauded for bringing incomplete and unreliable solutions to market in order for Uber to appear to be an innovator and winner. In addition, Fowler likened Uber's culture to a Game of Thrones, in which rivals vie for the throne the same way Uber employees were encouraged to vie for power, and aggression and betrayal was common. In March 2017, some Silicon Valley computer programmers labeled Uber as poisonous and encouraged friends who worked for the company to quit. Scandals and departure of Emil Michael. At a private dinner in November 2014, Emil Michael, senior vice president of Uber, suggested that Uber hire a team of opposition researchers and journalists, with $1 million budget, to dig up dirt on the personal lives and backgrounds of media figures who reported negatively about Uber. Specifically, he targeted Sarah Lacy, editor of Pondo Daily, who, in an article published in October 2014, accused Uber of sexism and misogyny in its advertising. Michael issued a public apology. Emil Michael apologized to Lacy in a personal email and claimed that Uber would never actually undertake the plan. Several journalists deleted their Uber apps. After several additional scandals involving Emil Michael, including an escort karaoke bar scandal in Seoul and the questioning of the medical records of a rape victim in India, he left the company in June 2017 when Kalanick, who reportedly was protecting Michael, resigned. Settlement with victims. In August 2018, Uber agreed to pay a total of $7 million to 480 workers to settle claims of gender discrimination, harassment and hostile work environment. Use of offshore companies to minimize tax liability. In November 2017, the Paradise Papers, a set of confidential electronic documents relating to offshore investment, revealed that Uber is one of many corporations that used an offshore company to minimize taxes.